Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of the first series of Branding Done. Today we're going to be talking about movement, how you can make your static brand move in the modern world, and that also kind of comes in along with sound as well. The two work in harmony. So let's get started. First of all, I just want you to sit back, relax, and listen to the following sound and watch the video too. So the idea being there is that sound ultimately saves us. So years and years ago, obviously when we lived in forests, the sound of birds tweeting, something that is obviously liked today as well. It's supposedly one of the best sounds that a human can hear. But years and years ago, we heard just birds tweeting in the sky. Everything was peaceful. Everything was in harmony. It was only really if the bird started to squawk and make a noise and fly from the trees, or you heard a rustle in a bush, and suddenly you decided you need to make a move. So the sound part saves us. You know, we hear a sound in everyday life, and it'll create a reaction. And often, in some cases, probably less so in modern life, it's there to save us. You know, we hear it first before we see it. So it's massively important to us. Movement and sound, obviously, two of the senses where a human can see something and also hear the sound that happens to happen when that movement happens at the same time. So that was just to get a point across, wake you up as well. If we move forward there, you know, since 1927, when the TV was being invented, and by 1936 it was in most people's houses, we've all been staring at the box at the screen. No surprise, really. You know, it contains movement, it contains sound, it's got storytelling, all the things that we like to see. But we see that in the real world on a daily basis. You can see things just out and about. You can hear sounds. The TV obviously doing a similar thing. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that we like this. The problem is that too many brands don't really celebrate it as much as they could do. You know, there's a day where TV was just for the big boys and the big brands, and that was pretty much it. Whereas really anyone can produce an advert, even if you just put it on social media or on YouTube. You can create social posts. You can do whatever you want, but every company on the planet has the ability to move and make a sound. And so really it should be thought through way more than it is, and should be celebrated more throughout everyone's brand identity, especially given the fact that we've got all these different platforms that you can promote your brand through. YouTube being essentially a channel or multi-channel, all video. TikTok obviously reinventing itself to be completely video-based social media platform. You know, huge subscription and following there. Some huge stats coming out about brand engagement as well. Instagram obviously promoting video and stories more. Same with Facebook. LinkedIn obviously can do the same thing. So it's encouraging us all to create video content, whether that's just talking to camera, doing an educational piece, creating an animation, creating a storytelling piece, whatever it might be. These platforms are allowing us to do it above and beyond traditional TV. So we need to take it seriously and consider it more than we do. Even billboards, ad shells, menus, promotion screens, all the things that would traditionally have been printed and static are all starting to move into digital space, which again means we have an opportunity to make movement and to make a sound. This is an extreme example from Apple, but if you watch it, you can see that all the movement and all the sound has been completely thought through, and it gives us the expectation that we have in life. If we drop a glass, we know it makes a noise as it hits the ground. If we shut a door behind us and there's no sound, we look around because we think, oh, it must not have shut. We expect things to happen, and the movement and the sound happen in harmony. So let's just have a quick look at this. So as you can see, all the movement and the sound was thought through, all worked in harmony together. Obviously an extreme example, I'm not saying everyone's got a budget to do something similar to what Nike do, but the point still stands. Even if you're doing a 10-15 second social post that happens to have movement and sound on it, you can consider that and make sure that the sound matches the movement, and that will enhance the experience for the people watching your content. Another one here is a rebrand of Jodrell Bank, which was done by Johnson Banks. Really nice rebrand if you want to look at it further, but again shows how modern take on how a logo can work, how it can be animated, how it doesn't have to be static and just have the one version of the logo. You can do variable things with a logo in the modern world, in a responsive world, in a digital world. A brand lives and breathes even more than it ever has. So have a quick look at this. The sound also is important. It's kind of bits extracted from what they've experienced and or fed out in space. So have a quick listen and watch this. So that's just the logo, obviously background imagery, music to match, and sounds extracted from communications from the dish and things like that. So really nicely put together, but then it shows how it can be applied in a static sense as well. But you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's a static logo, but it's of one of the angles from the video. On the right-hand side, there's a static version of the logo, which is just straight on instead. But it gives the brand a flexibility. You still recognize it as one brand. And that's because the fonts and the colors are strong and the imagery style and the cutout oval shape, all of that creates the brand. The logo is a part of that. And in the modern world, there's no reason why it can't be more flexible than it used to be. Other examples are here where the idea is that brands obviously try and simplify to a point where they might be recognized for an icon, and all three of these can be recognized for the icon on the right-hand side. But they also have other logos that are more complex in existence, which are on the left-hand side. So sometimes this is progression from one moment in time to another and where you want to get to. But at the same time, in the current situation, you can animate a logo to tell this story that this is our logo, but this is also how we look sometimes. And you might find us looking a bit like this on an avatar on a social media platform. But if you see some other communication, you might see the more expansive version of the logo. But again, this just shows that there's a flexibility to it rather than I produce my logo and that is it locked down. We have the ability to tell a story, animate a logo, and get it to move and interact with things more than we ever have before. Take Google, for example. I'm old enough to know the old logo, which is quite a bad typeface and a drop shadow. Then they modernized it to this. And again, it's not the longest company name ever, but it's long enough. And they also know that they need an icon or something to place in an avatar. So they could have used the G from this logo, but instead they've thought we want something maybe a bit more distinctive. So they've created an animation to kind of tell that story. Let's have a look at that. So that takes you from Google to the G and then back round to the word Google again. So really nice animation. Gives an education piece, which then allows for platforms like Instagram, where the colorful G is then applied. You still instantly recognize that it's Google, but the animation helps tell that story that maybe this is where we're moving to. Maybe you'll only know Google for that G in the future, and it helps companies get there. Or they might always have the word Google in its entirety, but the animation is just an interesting way to get from Google to the G mark. So again, all companies have the ability to do something similar. So a little bit of fun for you here. I'm going to play some music. Basically, just got to guess to yourself as to which brand you think the music is for. So shouldn't have been too difficult, I wouldn't have thought. Hopefully you've got the right answer there. And then if we play out their actual videos, the two brands that we've just shown you, you can see the difference in the delivery from a visual perspective and the music and the pace of it. So this is Butlins. So as you can see, what I'd expect from Butlins really, reasonably fast paced, kind of jolly music, lots of people, lots of action, lots of things happening. And if that's what you want, and the family are all there having fun, then that's what you'd expect. And that's what they've delivered. But if you want something to go to like Four Seasons, then you'd expect something very different from their video. And this is how theirs looks. As you'll see, two very different videos, different music, different pace, two very different brands. And that's the whole point. They've actually thought it through as to what they're trying to achieve. Four Seasons has a very artistic approach to the videography. Also doesn't really put many people in it. And if they are, they're in the background, they're very secondary. It's more about escapism and the space that you can have and the freedom. And if that's what you're after, that's exactly what it's trying to suggest. So another little bit of a guessing game. Going to hear a sound or a bit of sound. Try and work out which brand this is. So for those of you who might watch films ever so often, you may have guessed that it's Pixar. So let's look at the animation and the sound together and just see again how these work in harmony. So for me, it's when the two come together that it makes the difference. The sound is recognizable if you're not watching it, but it's that expectation that humans have. Something moves, there's a good chance there's going to be a sound that accompanies it, and that's what we expect. So we should be applying those rules to our animation, our movement, and our sound portfolio in our brand to give humans what they expect, but make sure that you deliver it in a way that your brand should be delivered. Butlins or Four Seasons or something in between. What is it that you actually stand for? So at this point, we've got a giveaway. Basically, just got to guess the company name from a sound. So let's see how you get on. hopefully pretty straightforward, instantly recognizable. Just play it out with the animation, really short animation, but again, the two work in harmony. There we go, simple as that. So well done if you're watching and got that right. So just play this guy pondering and thinking, and this is just to kind of stop for a second and ask ourselves, why is movement and sound quite often an afterthought in a brand? It should be taken a lot more seriously. We're all capable of doing it now and putting it onto a channel and broadcasting it. So it needs to have a strong place in the brand identity, and the guidelines that are written needs to be thought through at the start. What values do you have? How should that be displayed in movement and sound? And so that means when you come around to commissioning a video or an animation, you actually got a better brief and everyone can kind of work towards the same thing. So if we look at color, and again, there's a little bit of a guessing game in the background, but there's two strong colors here. We all will obsess about colors for the brand and how important they are. We'll also consider typefaces and fonts and know the importance of those. Also a tone of voice or graphical devices. This is obviously just one word, but it comes from a very strong strap line, and so do the colors. But if I play the sound now, if you've not guessed it already, then you'll pretty much guess which brand it is. So if you recognize that, then you'll know it's McDonald's. So all the visual identity of a brand is often there, but movement and sound is a bit for me that's still overlooked and needs to be thought through. So next thing I'm going to show is just a little clip of a series on BBC. It's got a Kylie track over the top of it, which is normally an upbeat pop song. Probably you don't pay much attention to the lyrics on that particular song, but in this instance, you'll pick up on the lyrics more and the way it's been delivered. It's completely different, but it's very suited to the kind of dark series that is on the BBC. I just can't get you out of my head. Oh, your loving is all I think about. I just can't get you out of my head. Oh, it's more than I dare to think about. So a well-known Kylie song over the top of a sequence of imagery, but the pace completely changed to match the type of program that it is. A lot more sinister. The words suddenly change meaning, but it's purposely selected, purposely slowed down to create that feeling. And this is what we're trying to educate today. That this is what brands need to be doing more of. And like I say, quite often everyone is capable of doing this. It just needs to be thought about. So we're going to finish with a video. Got a lot of accolades. It's from Apple, so no surprise really there. Quite simple in its execution, and when you look at it, but at the same time very complex to have put together. So we'll show this, but just look at the movement and the sound and how they work in harmony.
approximately the light emitted by a common candle. Therefore, 1,000 nits equals 1,000 candles worth of brightness.
As you can see, simply delivered but complicated. But you can see how every part of it has been thought through. The pace of the animation, just enough so you can read the words, but all the music and the soundtrack and sound effects all work in harmony with the video. And it's the expectation that we have. We expect those things to happen. Just unfortunately, it doesn't happen as often as it should do with a lot of animation and video content. So just play the alarm clock here. We are done at the end of the day. So this is an opportunity just to wake up really and ask ourselves why we're not considering it as much as we should do. You know, animation, how and when, how are we going to use it? When are we going to use it? Really important just to think about it. It could be any part of your brand. You might just start with, should we animate our logo at some point to educate people that it moves from a slightly complex logo into an icon. But just start to consider it as of tomorrow. And then guidelines. Is movement and sound even in your guidelines at the moment? And if it's not, it should be, but it should come from somewhere. And quite often, you know, brand values and the brand core behind a brand, all the words that you stand for, are the things that shape decision on color making, typography, graphics, imagery style. Should be the same things that determine the movement and the sound, how fast or slow you're going to move, what kind of sound portfolio you should have. So just consider that as well. See if we can make a difference to our brands in the online space where video is obviously becoming more and more popular. And as I say, no surprise because the TV has been there since the early 1900s. So let's make more of it.